Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Friday, May 27, 2022. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and I could not be happier than a pig in doo-doo. Why? It's been that long. I looked at the calendar and I was like, OMG, I need to reach back to my man, Mr. Lacrosse himself. Last year, as you all know, we had a show most of the time weekly, sometimes every other week due to the Premier Soccer League schedule. This year, we will not have any problems. And what better way to start the debut of our 2022 show than the NCAA Final Four of lacrosse? And we can also dive into next week's start of the Premier League of Lacrosse. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Dan Alexander.
Oh, Jeff, I'm right there with you, man. I can't believe we're back together again, back in the saddle. It's been too long. I mean, all we've been doing is wasting our time talking on Twitter about what goes on a hot dog. Like, it's time to talk some lacrosse, baby. It couldn't be better to be back with you, man. You look great. I love what you guys have been doing. Love the content you've been putting out, and we're all going to the moon together. So happy to be back here with you, man, where it all began for me.
An exciting weekend. The Final Four in lacrosse. Now, I am not going to come and tell the world here I'm the expert. You are the expert. But just looking outside in, what the hell is this Maryland team drinking, eating? I'm looking at the odds, and I know I saw a -7 earlier this week. It's down to -6.5 goals. Can you explain to the novice what the hell this Terps team's all about?
I'll tell you what they're all about. They're all about just rolling people over. I mean, the thing is they had one of the best lacrosse players that maybe ever played the game on their squad last year when they fell short in the championship game to the University of Virginia, the Wahoos. They had Jared Bernhardt on their team, and he's actually in training camp for the NFL right now. He's that good of an athlete that, he's making that jump into being a football player. So everybody kind of thought, you lose a player like that, Maryland, maybe a down year, but a down year for Maryland is like the best year for everybody else. It almost seems like, you've heard that addition by subtraction, right? Where you lose a terrific player and sometimes it raises everybody's levels up. Think about what happened way back in the day with like Patrick Ewing. He comes out, that team just starts rolling. So there is some merit to that. And that's what you're seeing with this Maryland lacrosse team. Logan Wisnauskas, one of the most incredible players. We'll get into the Premier Lacrosse League. They just reported for training camp today. He was the first overall pick in the Premier Lacrosse League draft. So he's kind of the rudder that keeps it in the water for Maryland. But get this, Jeff. I mean, this team has been blowing teams out. Not only are they winning, their average margin of victory is just shy of 10 goals per game. And I know that, you're not a big time lacrosse guy, but you've gotten into it a little bit more. I've kind of forced you into becoming a fan. A lot of the time you're seeing shootouts, you're seeing back and forth. Very rarely are you going to be seeing a team doubling people up on goals. And it wasn't just the regular season. Since the playoffs have started, Maryland is just a runaway train. Their offense is so efficient. Their defense is stellar, strong goaltending as well. So there is a conversation going down. I don't know if I'm quite ready to go there without them winning the Natty, but there's a lot of people saying this is the best lacrosse team that has ever stepped on the field in NCAA play. It's hard to argue with them when you drop a stat like that they're blowing people out by 10 goals a game.
This is not football. So the average person goes to, I'm at DraftKings right now. I pull up the sports book, I hit lacrosse, and I look and see Rutgers and Cornell, -1.5 for Rutgers, -130, and over at 24.5. Money line -170. I go to the second game, Maryland and Princeton. Now, Princeton, correct me if I'm wrong here, notoriously always has a great or good, very good lacrosse team, correct?
Yeah, Princeton, and really the thing is with these Ivy League schools, they're playing with a huge chip on their shoulder too, because they haven't played the last 2 years due to COVID. They had their season shut down, and then they were trying to have a return to play, and then the higher up said no, it's not happening. So the Ivy came into this league this year insanely pissed off, and they were rewarded with nearly every team from the Ivy League making the final tournament. We only had one team from the ACC, which is typically, the strongest lacrosse conference from top to bottom. That's where your UVAs are, your UNCs, your Notre Dames. And we saw only one of those teams make it. It was UVA. They end up winning the game and then getting absolutely destroyed by Maryland. Whereas these Ivy League teams, they all battled each other all year long. Penn ends up winning the Ivy League tournament. They end up getting dropped by Rutgers. So there is this sense around this chip on the shoulder for these Ivy League teams. But like you said, year in and year out, Princeton always has a solid program. Harvard always has a solid program. Yale, all of those teams will at least compete outside of the conference. Browns come around, and iron has really sharpened iron in that conference. You have teams that can routinely go into other conferences and bully them. And then all you saw all year long was, as you saw that line there, -1.5. That was the standard in any games featuring an Ivy League team, because you're in for a dogfight when an Ivy's taking the field. So seeing this giant spread is really indicative to just what a stalwart that this Maryland side has been all year long. The fact that if you shop around on DraftKings, you see that it's 6.5. There's some books hanging 7.5, and I wouldn't be shocked if this game, with there's live betting, that you see a spread end up going as high as 8.5, 9.5 with this Maryland team. That's how good they are. And you could give me all those points, Jeff, and I still don't think I would be taking the dog. That's what is wild to me, because you know me, I'm like an underdog bettor. I'm a contrarian bettor, but you can't buck this Maryland team. I stepped in front of them one time. I had a best bet that was against Maryland one time. I said never again. I'm just going to lay it with Maryland or pass the game, because they're that dominant. So I think that spread alone tells you, with how strong Ivy is, with how strong a team that Princeton has, terrific defense as well, 6.5. I mean, and you see the money line -1150 if you want to back Maryland. They're basically just saying, F you if you want to bet Maryland, good luck. And, hopefully we get a dog home or something.
So basic math here, under over 27.5 in that game. I haven't dug deep and looked at team totals. They're basically telling you in a nutshell, 17-10, somewhere around there. Is this Maryland team closer? Is it easier to take a team total and say they got a better chance of getting closer to 20, or are you more comfortable laying the 6.5 and just waiting at the window?
I'll tell you what, because this market is so fresh, this is the first season actually that I've seen on a regulated sports book in the United States that there has been a full season long offering of lacrosse. Last year we had it in the playoffs, and lacrosse fans, sports bettors were crazy excited about that. But this is really the first year that we've gotten to see a whole entire season. So those kind of micro markets, Jeff, as far as the team totals, they haven't come along as much. So if you could give me a team total, I would lay like -170 on whatever the over is for Maryland, because that's what I look at this 27.5 total, and I want to make a case for the under. A guy who I do bet on lacrosse with, Justin Byers, he's a business writer with Front Office Sports. You can follow him at Justin Byers. Terrific information, always breaking news as well. Great follow on Twitter is my guy JB. His best bet was the under in this game, and I want to ride with him, but my only concern is this Maryland team, it could be looking like a dead nut under, and then they explode and score 7-8 goals within a span of 4 minutes. Like that's how explosive that they are. I think Maryland's defense is good enough to keep that total low for Princeton. I wonder how many goals Princeton is gonna be able to put in the back of the net. I think if Princeton does cover it, this has to go under. Like if there's no way that if this game goes over 30 goals, if this game goes over that 27.5 mark, I would be floored if Princeton covers this game. So I have concerns about how much Princeton's going to be able to reach the back of the net. But the reason why I can't back that under with my guy JB is simply because we could see Maryland score 27 goals, Jeff. Like that's the crazy thing is it sounds hyperbolic. It sounds like I'm putting you on. It wouldn't be a surprise to see over 20 goals dropped in the net, even against a defense like Princeton. That's how dominant this Maryland team has been. And you keep wondering, when's the other shoe going to drop? You know, they're going to be due for a close game, right? The only close game they really played was against Notre Dame. Notre Dame didn't even make the tournament, Jeff. So it's just hard for me to make any case that doesn't play to a game that works into Maryland's favor. And if Maryland wins this game, it probably goes over. If Maryland covers the number, it probably goes over. So this one's a stay away for me. I think maybe your best bet, I'm not a big parlay guy, but if you want to find a piece that you like, maybe you think that the dog's going to get home tonight in the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics game. I know you hope that doesn't happen, but if you think it is, if you want to be a Miami backer, you know, it could be worth throw a little pizza and beer money, like you guys say at ECSI, throw a little pizza and beer money, you know, tie in that money line with a dog that you like tonight, get it to a more manageable price. Cause I would be floored if Maryland did not win this game. It would be one of the biggest upsets in NCAA lacrosse history, to be honest with you.
All right. I was going to go to the first game. You're talking upsets. Give me what the hell happened. I think this was the first game of the tournament and a Georgetown team that was absolutely
sore subject, Jeff.
Was a wagon, and they were. I think they were like minus 1100 in the game, something stupid like that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they play Yale? Was it?
So it was Delaware that they played. Delaware. The Blue Hens. Joe Flacco, the pride of the Delaware Blue Hens. I'll tell you what, man. I had Georgetown winning this tournament. I thought if there was one team that could take down a Maryland, it was a Notre Dame, or it was a Georgetown, or it was an Ivy League team. So we'll see how that Ivy League team stacks up in this Princeton game. I wish it would be somebody more like a Yale or a Penn. I think they matched up just schematically a little bit better against this Maryland team. But yeah, Georgetown, you could tell there was an air about that team that, oh, we got this in the bag. You know what I mean? They weren't really respecting the opponent. And in lacrosse, you can't do that. It's very similar to hockey where, you know, if there's a little bit of a momentum change, then you're talking about a whole entire different game. Georgetown tries to hold the ball for the final possession. They have an unforced turnover. Ball goes down to the Blue Hens. Beautifully drawn up play. Ball game. See ya. Sayonara. Huge upset there. And like you said, Georgetown was a 6.5-point favorite. I would caution people. However, Georgetown ain't this Maryland team. And I think we saw that there's just this tenor around this Maryland team that's we will not be stopped. I think there's one team that can beat Maryland at this point, Jeffrey, and that team is Maryland. If Maryland somehow finds unforced turnovers, they get a little bit sloppy. But we have seen nothing this season to indicate that that would even be a possibility for this team. They've been that polished. They've been that, savvy. They've had opportunities in games where they were trailing. It wasn't like it's all sunshine and rainbows. They were actually down against UVA. First goal went Virginia's way. They opened up the live lines and probably took all that Virginia money in, and they were laughing all the way to the bank because they knew, hey, just wait for the Terps to be rolling back down. So, yes, upsets have happened. They have happened rather recently, even in spots like this. This Maryland Terrapins team is just a completely different beast.
All right. Let me just go quickly to your Rutgers Cornell. The Ivy League, there is plus 140, Rutgers minus 170. Again, if you want to go on the goal line, it's minus 1.5, minus 130. You talked about what we did a lot of, and you talked a lot about in the Premier Leagues, is grabbing those plus goal and a halves. We were very profitable last season on our shows on those. So before we go to the potential title game and your thoughts and numbers there, give us a quick breakdown on Rutgers and Cornell.
Yeah, this is a coin flip game. If I was making a case for the side, I would probably be making it for Rutgers on the money line. I think you could easily just as well make a case for Cornell getting the goal and a half. The problem that I have as far as the side in this game is both of these teams really schematically match up very well against each other. So I think you could be seeing a 1-goal game, but I wish that if this was a 2.5, it would be an all-day Cornell spot. You know what I mean? Because I think this is going to play to a rather close game unless Rutgers is able to pull away. But what I look at more in this game, like I said, I don't really have a side play that I love. My best bet this week, and we'll give out a little free action here for the folks, because, everybody, it's always boils down to, we can talk about the analysis, and they just want to know who you got, Jeff. They just want to know, what am I betting on? What can you make me money for this weekend? And when it loses, you got all the mad people in your mentions saying, "Oh, what the hell? How good? I thought you said you were an expert." It's like, yeah, I also have a bridge I want to sell you if you think I'm going to win every single pick I ever make. I like the under in this game, Jeff, and simply being, there's two solid defenses. And I'll start with the Cornell side because they have a really good veteran defense. Only one of the players is an underclassman, a sophomore who plays like he's a senior. They have some graduate students as well. And the numbers indicate how good my eyes see this Cornell defense. And the fact is, they've had 2 games here in the NCAA tournament, and they've only allowed 16 total goals. In a game like lacrosse, big old net, fast shots coming at you, and they held OSU to 8, and they held Delaware to 8. So only 8 goals they've given up in either of these games. And you're going to say, Dan, that's a little recency bias. Well, you go back to what they did all year long. They're only allowing 11 goals per game, and that's playing in the Ivy that we already talked about previously. It's a pretty damn good conference there. So, a solid defense on the Cornell side. And for Rutgers, I think if this game was to go over the total, it would be because there was fast break opportunities for Big Red. For Cornell, I just don't see that happening with a Rutgers team that leads the nation in clearing percentage. And you say, oh, okay, well, that just means they're the top of the heap, right? The number is even more stark. They have cleared the ball 91% of the time. So for people who are a little bit newer to lacrosse, what I mean by clearing the ball, the goalie makes a save, throws an outlet pass, and then clearing the ball is getting that over to the other side of the field, so then you can set up your offensive possession. So that is what I mean by clearing the ball. So when you're not clearing the ball efficiently, you're giving the other team unsettled looks. You're giving them good opportunities. Now, even if Rutgers doesn't live up to the fact that they've only failed on 9% of their clears all year long, well, you're going to have an unsettled opportunity against one of the best goalies that has been in the NCAA tournament in recent history. He's certainly been the best this season, but if you look at his entire body of work, he's played 4 NCAA playoff games, has cursed. This guy is an amazing lacrosse family. They have players in the pros. They have players that are making impacts on other teams. One of the impact players is actually on Cornell. His brother's going to be shooting on him from the Cornell side, but he has only allowed 8.75 goals per game in all 4 of his NCAA tournaments. He's had 17 saves in those games as well. And this Rutgers team, everybody calls them the NASCAR offense. Oh, they're going so fast. They actually have one of the slowest paces of play. So the reason why people think they're going fast is because how quickly they're able to move the ball around offensively. And then we got the kicker, Jeff. You always like it when you can make one more extra case for an under, because nobody wants to bet unders. I'm not saying that rain always means a dead nut under, but there is some inclement weather in the forecast. We could see some potential lightning delays on Saturday, this game going at noon. So something to track. The game will be in Connecticut. Keep watching those weather forecasts. So that could lead to maybe some mucky offensive possessions, maybe some unforced turnovers, maybe some frustration that keeps this game under the total. So it's a low total. You're going to have to plug your nose. You're going to have to hold your breath. I'll send you a little acid if you want to back this under with me, but I'm rolling with the under 24.5. It's minus 115 right now on DraftKings. Under 24.5 Cornell Rutgers. That's my best bet for the week, Jeff.
As we were speaking, DraftKings moved Maryland minus 6.5 to minus 140 as we were speaking. So
people are listeing. They're saying lay the damn thing because they heard that the 7.5s are out there, and they said, shit, we better move our number up a little bit. There's 7.5s out there.
DraftKings, I hope you heard that. They are listening because my eyes aren't deceiving me. Okay. So my email is at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com.
Sponsor the show. Nice and easy. We'll reference all your lines, DraftKings. It's nice and easy.
All right. Crystal ball, or as our friend Dave Sharapian likes to say, Biff's Almanac. Title game on Monday. I'm going to let you play the game. Pick your winner. I just am kind of curious. Maryland versus who, and what is the spread number, you think?
I like how you did that too. You just said Maryland versus who? Because I mean, we would love it if Princeton pulls the upset, but let's be real. The 1150, the odds makers aren't just laying that out there just to have fun. It could happen. We would be shocked if it did. So I personally think we're going to see a Big Ten rematch. And the concern that I have is Rutgers. They've played Maryland 2 times this year. And you know, you would maybe think in a championship game, you're going to see a bit tighter of a line. I think the final will be Rutgers and Maryland. I did a little bit of digging to see, what would a number be if these two teams faced off. I think what they'll probably hang is around a 5.5 for Maryland. Reason being, you just look at the scores of the games that they played against Rutgers. It was blowouts both times in the Big Ten. In the Big Ten tournament, it was a blowout. Earlier in the season, it was a blowout. And then I just did a little bit of digging of how close have these games been. When these two teams face off, since they face off rather frequently, if they hung a 3.5. The last time that a game between these two teams has even been within that spread and Rutgers has covered a 3.5 was 2018, Jeff. So, I think maybe if Rutgers comes out, they blow out Cornell. There's a lot of excitement around them. Maybe bare minimum, you see a 4.5. I think you're more likely to see a Maryland 5.5. Probably total going to be the same that we're seeing here, a 27.5, maybe a 28.5. If these two teams are facing off, though, I'll tell you what, even with Kirst in goal, I want no part of the under, no matter what number that is. I ain't betting no under in the national championship game from what we've seen. But I think it'll be Rutgers. I think it'll be Maryland. And if I was putting my Dave Sharapan odds maker hat on, I'll throw up a 5.5, and it'll probably get crazy steam to Maryland, probably close closer to 6.5, 7.
Premier League.
Yes.
We got breaking news that you will be talking about real soon. A week off, as you talked before the show to me, a week of training. They go off Saturday, June 4th, and Sunday, June 5th. I got the teams, I got the matchups, I got the odds. You got the stage.
I love it. Well, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, we talked about it last year with the Premier Lacrosse League. I think, it's the most viable professional lacrosse product that we've seen. The NLL does an amazing job. Don't get me wrong. The National Lacrosse League, for what it's worth, there's also a game tomorrow night to decide who will be in the finals against the Buffalo Bandits in the NLL. That's between the Colorado Mammoth and the San Diego Seals. So, I don't want to knock the NLL, but field lacrosse is my first love. So seeing the best lacrosse players in the world all on one field with what the Premier Lacrosse League has been able to do is just uber exciting for a lacrosse fan like me. It's uber exciting for bettors too, because this is a league that's really leaning into the betting space. And like you kind of said, I get to pat myself on the back here a little bit. I couldn't be more excited. I do my own podcast. You see it at the bottom ticker there at Bet on Lacrosse. Well, the great folks with the Premier Lacrosse League were checking us out all year long last year, and they really enjoyed the product that we were putting out there. So I will be producing a show for the Premier Lacrosse League. You can find it at PLL Bet. The name of the show is Over and Back. I'll be joined each and every week by a different guest, whether they're in the lacrosse world, the sports betting world. Our first guest is going to be Evan Malloy from the Post Game Podcast. So lacrosse fans who are listening right now, Jeff, their ears just perked up because they know when Malloy is on the is on the call, and maybe some fireworks going down. So we'll break down, our favorite matchups. We'll break down totals. We'll have an angle of the week that, is supported by trends, that's supported by angles, that's not just us saying, oh, I like this. Let's flip a coin and try and decide. So I couldn't be more excited. Premier Lacrosse League action starts June 4th, June 5th, and then you're going to have 15 weeks of action-packed. We got the All-Star Weekend that's going to be up in Boston, so I think I'm going to make a road trip up there. I'll be meeting my man Jeff out there, going out, seeing some lacrosse, grabbing some lobster roll with my guy, but I couldn't be more excited, and they're really leaning into this betting space on their broadcast. They have live odds incorporated with them. We're in talks with, potentially having player prop availability again, which, was a major moneymaker for us last year. They have totals, spreads available. They just posted their MVP odds. They have future markets, and you can get these on DraftKings. You can get on BetMGM, on Barstool Sportsbook, on Caesars Sportsbook. The availability is going to the moon with this league. And if you want to see the best lacrosse product, check out the Premier Lacrosse League. It's actually their partner with ESPN this year. So if you have ESPN Plus, you'll get all of the games. First weekend, there will be a game on ESPN. They have games on ESPNU or ESPN2 on ABC. So it's going to be even easier to see it, because remember last year we were telling people download Peacock, buy another streaming app. Everybody already has ESPN Plus. So just watch the damn games, listen on into Jeff and I every week, and we'll all make some money together,
A week in advance. How about a little intro to some of the stars, maybe some of the teams that you see preseason? We always talk about futures. We always talk about, hey, grab someone now because the price could drop, or vice versa. I know you had a couple great swings mid-season that we had on some big-time futures, some MVPs. What are you seeing a week in advance before the actual first game?
Yeah, if you think about what we were able to do, Jeff, we were able to have plus money futures on both the teams that were in the finals, and we weren't just spraying the board. We played the future market so well. So when the championship game rolled around, we got to kick our feet up with some plus money both ways. Just enjoy a good game between the Chaos and the Whip Snakes. There's a lot of excitement around this Chaos team. They were the champion for the first time. They knocked off the Whip Snakes, who are just an elite team. They actually have 6 of the top 10 players in the world on their roster, voted by players, voted by, people who follow the league as well. So this Whip Snakes team should be a solid team again. Now, as far as the future market goes, I'm probably gonna hold off. I think there's one mantra that I've had all year long, and it is that there will be a new champion in the Premier Lacrosse League this year. I'm not bucking off of it. I'm not changing my mind. I don't think it's going to be the Whip Snakes. I don't think it's going to be the Chaos. Not because they're bad teams by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, they'll be terrific. They'll be at the top of the league all year long. I just think the parity that we're going to see this year is something that we made money on betting on dogs last year, because especially when you were getting 2.5 goals, you never know what's going to happen in these games because the talent level is just so sky high. So you talk about some of the stars in the league. Jeff Teat, member of the Atlas, he's the odds-on favorite to win the MVP this year, and rightfully so. I mean, he can pass, he can distribute, he can shoot like hell, he sees the field, his dodging is incredible. So the one concern that I have is at plus 400, I just don't know heading into the season if anybody should really have the implied odds of being a 20% likelihood of winning this MVP. I think that's why I would maybe sprinkle on some of the, longer guys. Blaze Reardon, he won the MVP last year. He's a netminder for the Chaos. Figures to be another stud in the conversation. But, there's just every single team, Jeff, is so loaded this year. Even the teams that are like, they're a little bit down, like people are down on the Chrome. They missed out on the playoffs last year. They have Randy Stotts, who's going to be playing with them. He wasn't able to play last year due to, some off the field issues. He's going to be back. And he's going to be on the field. They lost some decent players at the top, and there's a lot more youth injection, but they're also getting a guy that could be potentially one of the best lawn poles in the league, and JT Giles Harris out of Duke. He was injured last year. He didn't play all year long, so they were plagued by the injury bug. I think Chrome could be a kind of sleeper team. I don't know if I would play on them to win the championship. When the odds first opened, they were plus 2,000. So I sprinkled a couple of schmeckles on that because why the heck not? I knew that was going to go down. So I'll be riding that one. But you really could make a case, and that's why you should check out the Over and Back show between me and Evan Malloy. We're both going to give out one future play that we like. So I'll hold on to that for that show. But you could make a case, and a strong case, for every team, because it's only an 8-team field. You know what I mean? So the fact that you're able to get, a plus 10,000 or a plus 1,000 on the Chrome, on the Cannons, maybe that bet doesn't get home for you, but getting that kind of value in an 8-team market is almost like a no-brainer on some of these teams with the longer odds, sprinkling on them now or waiting until they come out of the gate 0-2. Like the Chaos were bad to start last year, and they could be bad again this year. Just talking about week 1, they'll be playing the Whip Snakes. It'll be a rematch of the opening week. Whip Snakes and Chaos will be facing off, and when that line opened, the league champion Chaos was the favorite until we learned. And I told people when that line opened, get in on the Whip Snakes right now. I tweeted it out. I said it on Bet on Lacrosse. I said, get on the Whip Snakes now because this line is going to move, because there's crossover with the leagues that these teams play in. So there's a team, Buffalo Bandits, they're in the championship, and that's going to spill in the NLL playoffs to the start of the Premier Lacrosse League season. So there are 10 players on the Chaos that will not be active in week 1. So I kind of was looking at the tea leaves and knowing the Bandits, they're probably going to end up making it to the finals. So we saw an opportunity where you could have had the Whip Snakes at plus money. You could have had them at plus 1.5. That line has since gone. They are all the way up to minus 210. So get the CLV trash can out for me, Jeff, because I got my Whip Snakes ticket that I'll be waving there at the window if that one doesn't get home. But that's just an example of, if you're paying attention to this lacrosse league, the books might be a little bit slower to adjust to things such as that. Get that news, download the PLL app. It lets you know when players are injured, lets you know when players are going to be out. And, you might be able to get a really good closing line value opportunity is, something that I always suggest people to do.
You couldn't be more spot on. And we always say this at least 2-3 times in each show. They all cash the same. So people that say, I don't know what the hell lacrosse is, I always preach this. The less you know, the better off you are most times.
Yep.
And you could not have been spot on. And so I know next Friday we're going to go through the 4 games. I know what used to be an eye-opener for you. All 3 games out of the 4 are minus 1.5. This used to be your go-to. You can currently get the Chrome plus 2.5. It is juiced to minus 135 against the Archers. I know we're going to go a lot more in depth next week. Does that line move going closer to to next week, or can we just sit and wait, or is this the time that we got to kind of grab the 2.5?
That's what I'm not sure. That's why I want to see, some of the hype that comes out of this training camp over the next few weeks, because with such a fluid market like this Premier Lacrosse League market, like one hype video can change the market, just because then all these recreational bettors, oh my God, did you see that shot Tom Schreiber had for the Archers? I got to go hammer him right now. There's no way they're not going to roll the Chrome. So maybe some of those more casual bettors will be able to steam that line up a little bit. I'm hoping that I don't think we see a 1.5. I'm not sure if we'll get much better juice. Getting the 2.5 with Chrome. That's the way that I would look. It's minus 135 right now. I think when the betting market comes along, Friday evening or Saturday morning, when they say, oh shit, the Premier Lacrosse League starts today and they all are scrambling to get their bets in, I think that's when you're going to see the most Archers money. So I don't see this moving to a 1.5. The juice might change a little bit either way. So this is probably a wait and see for me, though my early lean would be to the Chrome. I think the Chrome have a lot to play for. I think when you're the team who didn't make the playoffs last year and everybody talked about, how shitty you were all off season long, and then the lines open up and you're a 2.5 point underdog without anybody getting on the field yet, there's going to be a chip on the shoulder all year long for the Chrome. Now, if that translates to wins, I don't know, but I think it will translate to close games, tough games. And if there's anything I know about the Stotts family, and Randy Stotts is going to be on the field for them, they ain't going down without a fight. So I think the Chrome could be a play on team, because I think there's this major perception that, they're going to be the same team as last year. And I just don't see that happening. They lost a lot of veteran leadership, but I think with what we saw last year, that could be a net positive for this team. So, when lacrosse fans, they hear a name like Ned Crotty going, a former Duke great, they probably say, oh my God, they lost such a piece. Yes, they did. But we talked about earlier in the show, Jeff, sometimes there's that addition by subtraction. I think there's going to be some value on the Chrome early on, but I wouldn't rush to bet any of these just because let's wait. Hopefully no injuries in training camp. Follow the tea leaves. Follow me on Twitter at Newbie Talks. Follow us at Bet on Lacrosse. Check out the Over and Back show, and we will get you the latest on what you need to bet the PLL. And of course, when we're back next Friday, Jeff, we'll have some best bets for the folks and some PLL action. All free info that we give the folks. All we appreciate is if you like what we do, hit that retweet button, tell people about it, drop Jeff a follow, does a great job with what he do. We don't ask for much, Jeff. We just ask you to be decent. And when the picks inevitably lose, we don't got to get buried. You think we're happy that we took money out of our pocket? Like, I guarantee you we probably bet just as much as you, if not more, on the play. So trust me, we're just as bummed out that it lost. We'll try and get it back, and we'll try and get another winner for you. That's all we ask for. If you enjoy what we do, hit us with the follow and tell people about us. That's how we grow what we do.
That's like I say, it's like tipping the dealer at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
That's all we ask is, a follow, a retweet, tell a friend, tell someone who wants to listen, run over to Twitch or YouTube, subscribe to our channels, our podcasts. We're here to provide education with a little entertainment. How's that sound?
It's infotainment. It's what we do here. If we cash tickets for you, that's what we aim to do. But at the end of the day, if you leave the show with a smile on your face, we aim to do that as well. So I couldn't be more happy to get this started. This summer is going to be so fun, Jeff. Can't wait to meet you in person up in Boston. Hopefully we run into each other at Vegas, grab some dogs at the South Point. So it's going to be a summer of lacrosse. It's also going to be a summer of cash considerations, of East Coast sports investors. We're all going to the moon together, and I couldn't be more pumped to be here with you, Jeff.
Dan Alexander at Newbie Talks, at Bet on Lacrosse, at Cash Consideration Show, at Wager Talk, at 8:30 a.m. WEEU, and we'll probably be adding another one to the scroller next week. What better way to start the Memorial Day weekend with a little Final Four breakdown? And then next week, we go right into the Premier League. Dan, we cannot thank you enough.
Right back at you, Jeff. Can't wait for it. Is it Friday already? I mean, let's run this thing back, Jeff. Let's go. And I told you, take the over. Jeff and I were aiming for 30 minutes. Always take the over when the boys are back together. Let's go, Jeff.
From Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Dan Alexander at Newbie Talks, we can't wish you guys the best. We can't thank you enough. All the loyal listeners, thank you. And if you're not following one of us, please do that. It's the tipping the dealer. I'm not at Mohegan. I'm not at Foxwoods. Dan's in Philly right now. I'm on Cape Cod. But we're wishing everyone the best. And we're trying to make it a Memorial Day weekend for everyone. And like Dan said, we will be back religiously every Friday at 2:30 to get you set for the weekend of the Premier League. Thank everyone for watching and listening. Have a blessed day and weekend. And always remember this: if you are wagering today, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up that phone. There is an 800 number available. Why? Myself and Dan care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next weekend, next month, through 2022 and beyond. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Dan Alexander at Newbie Talks. Have a day, cash some tickets, and we will see you soon.